Eric, complementarianism, what do you think? You like it? You love it?
Love it. Let's do it. Let's just have it everywhere. Yeah, no, I think, what's interesting is you guys were breaking these down. I think whether you're talking radical two kingdoms, whatever it is, to your point, Joel, what Joe Boot has said, it's really about churchianity, right? We want to keep the churchy things in the church, and we want to keep, the so-called secular pagan things out there. I think really what complementarianism is, first of all, is really hard to pronounce, which is why it's a terrible theology.
It's also hard to spell.
It is. Yeah. It is. So it really comes out of the late 1980s, and you're getting a response to feminism and egalitarianism. So really just feminism. And so you get a lot of evangelical thinkers, Wayne Grudem and John Piper, Mary Cassian, some people like this, they get together, they say, how do we combat the feminism that's going on? And really what they do is they say, well, really what we want to stress is that men and women complement each other. So this is a couple things. Number one, it's a downplaying of hierarchical order as found in like Ephesians 5 and 6. They're trying to stress, hey, look, you guys are, you're different, but you complement each other. And they really typically are going to want to downplay the fact that there's, a wife has to submit, a husband is Lord, he is the authority. And so even Mary Cassian has written on the Gospel Coalition, she's explained this. She said, we intentionally chose anti-hierarchical language. And really, she comes out and says it. It was a lot of the Marxist thought that was influencing that decision. John Piper will say the same thing. Him and Grudem will say the same thing in their book, Recovering Biblical Womanhood and Manhood. So how does it play out today? Generally, you have a few camps of complementarianism. You've got soft and harder. And, typically, though, what you're going to end up with is men and women, yeah, they kind of have some roles, but it's mostly relegated to family and the church. Some, they've been kind of picked on, but the John Pipers of the world, he would be harder in this camp where he's saying, look, and he won't even really be that hard in my view. He won't just come out and say, look, absolutely not. Women should not be serving in law enforcement. Women should not be serving in these combat roles, police officers. John will say, yeah, that's probably maybe not the best idea. Let's talk. And then you get, the Amie, Byrd, Carl Trueman camp, and they were actually ridiculing John Piper for this. So I think fundamentally what's happening here, it's a war on biblical sexuality. And I think this one is particularly dangerous. I've gone after it a lot because it is such a Trojan horse. It looks like, and many times is, faithful, reformed-ish guys who are saying, yeah, I'm complementarianism. I'm complementarian. And for a long time, I would have said that too. I thought that was the conservative position because really nobody at the time, so late 90s, early 2000s, nobody was really defending patriarchy. Right. It was like, well, this is horrible.
Except for Russell Moore.
Obviously. Except for Russell Moore.
Yeah.
God
bless him. Yeah.
That's right. So I think really it's a war on all of sexuality. We have to recognize it as such. It's a war against women as well. It's not doing women any favors. And we can also look at the fruit of complementarianism. It's been really bad for the church. Most of the people who've defended it have given ground pretty quickly to the left and to false sexual ideology.
Yeah, I completely agree. What would you say to somebody who says, but we find complementarian principles within the Trinity, right? There's a hierarchy in the Trinity, So I think of eternal subordination of the Son, So I'm, spoiler, I would adhere to classical theism, but for those who would say, all right, well, the Father and the Son are equal in terms of the divine essence, nature, that the Son is fully God, not partly God, of the same substance, not just a similar substance, but the same substance. So their essence and nature is equally worthy of worship and honor. And yet the Son plays a role of submission to the Father. And then they would argue, and this continues beyond just his his earthly ministry, but that he is still subjected to the Father in terms of role, but equal to the Father in terms of nature. And if we can see that within the Trinity, then we can do that within gender roles with men and women.
Yeah, I would say part of the issue here, Bruce Ware, I've had him as a professor, friends with Owen Strand, a lot of the ESS debate. The way that I look at it is like, why do we even have to go there? God said there's authority structures, there's hierarchy. It's very plain and very clear from Scripture. Let's base our arguments on the things that we know and are clear, and not on the things that are like conjecture about some hypothetical. It's a tough area when you're like, well, how exactly does the certain structure? And I think that's typically what's going to happen when you spend most of your time studying and researching doctrine of God. Not that it's not important, but I think sometimes you can miss the obvious. Like, just read Ephesians 5, and it is hyper crystal clear. You can read Genesis 1 and 2, and you see that. I mean, pretty much any honest Old Testament scholar will tell you the act of naming, which God delegates to Adam, is de facto authority. Mm-hmm. And who does he name? The woman. Eve. Yeah. He clearly has authority over her. Submission and obedience. I mean, so that's what I would say. Just go to what's clear, and it is crystal clear, and let's deal with that.
No, that's super helpful. Just saying, you don't have to be a master on the Trinity to be obedient in your marriage.
Yes,
the Trinity matters. Right. But yeah, I didn't even. I mean, that's super simple. But I never thought of it that way, in the sense that, like, the subliminal statement that's being made is you have to master one of the most difficult doctrines that we have, right. Doctrine of God, theology proper, in order to have a position on the nature of men and women. When it's like, well, the secret things belong to God. Well, let's do Trinitarian work, but some of these things are secret things, and but the things He's revealed to us belong to us and our children forever. And yeah, that's really good. Wait, real quick before you go. Do me a favor, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the bell so you'll be notified with all our new content as it comes out on a daily basis. And if you're willing to support this ministry, you can do so by going to rightresponseministries.com/donate. Thanks so much. God bless.